Hi guys, I'm Steven. Just wanted to share a creation with you, no-code.domains, an application I built with bubble.io. Started with Bubble a few days ago. Took me about 6.5 hours to get the logic down for no-code.domains and probably about 12 hours to complete everything. So my review of the software is that it's not very intuitive, but it's very exciting to learn because it is logic oriented. If then else, when this happens, do that. So very interesting. So the application no-code.domains will enable to the application and allow anybody else to vote, upvote or downvote. Each user will get one upvote and one downvote per name, right? So that's a simple explanation. So I'd start by using an input form to accept the text variable, which will be our domain name. So the placeholder text, I'll call it no-code domains. I think it's moving a little slow because of this recorder. Okay, so you see that the no-code-domains.com. So you see that the placeholder text changed, and the style, we'll leave the standard input style there. From there, would want to create a button that would allow persons to submit the domain name to the database. So the button we'll put there. We can also center these on the page by doing a center horizontally. I'll do a center horizontally there. So for the placeholder text, I'll use the word submit, and then I would start my workflow. So the workflow section, which is the second section here, allows you to tell different elements what you want them to do. So when button submit is clicked, what we will do is create a text variable that will collect all the domain names. So we'll create a new data row in the database, create a new thing. We'll call that new type, we'll call it name. Let's call it domain name. Let's create a new type. We call it domain name. From there, we will create the data field and call the field name and then call the field type text. So it's a text type. We also want to receive the data from the input form, so we do input no-code-domains.com value. We set another field to receive the upvotes or the downvotes, so we'll call it votes, and this time it will be a number type, and we'll assign a value of 1. So each name submitted will start with a value of 1, and you can upvote or downvote. Each person will get that opportunity. So that's that, and we would reset the element actions here. So each user gets to do the same thing. or the individual user can submit another name. So let's go back to design. The logic is set there, and we have the variables for votes and domain name. So from there we create a repeating group, and we set it down here. Let me get myself out of the way. So we will use a text element to display the domain name, and you see it's repeating going all the way down. So here's where we actually insert dynamic data. Let me double click here, insert dynamic data, and we would do a search for domain names name. Is that what we do? No. Something is wrong here. So we have two issues. Repeating group. Remember to fill out the type of content. Dynamic data in text boxes must be printable as text, but instead list. This is a list of domain name. Okay, so I think where I was going wrong was I didn't define the repeating group. The type of content is domain name, and the data source, I would do a search for the domain name, and I would sort by the votes in descending order. Yes. So descending order, yes, I would sort by votes. So that would mean whenever a certain domain name receives high votes, it would go to the top. So that should be fine there. From there I would input the domain name here. See, it repeats for each row in the repeating group. That's the function of that container there. And I would insert dynamic data. I would insert the current cell's domain name, and I would put the name, the actual name. That should be fine. And down below I will input the number of votes that the domain name would receive. So I would insert dynamic data, the current cells, variables, votes. That should be fine. So let's do a check to see how the application is working. It's taking a while to load. Let's see what. Okay, so nocodedomains.com. Okay, great. So it starts with a vote of 1. You realize that if I input any random text string, that it would display here, but I really want persons to input domain name, so I'd have to set up a condition for that, but we'll get into that a little later. That's good. So to create the upvote and downvote feature, I would insert an icon, one on the left, one on the right, I'll make this one upvote. So I'll search for the icon. Let's see if I can find a neat one here. Which one should I use, guys? Okay, I think I'll use the ticket. Upvote, downvote, I think I might just use the X. Great. Okay, so I would do a little formatting on the icons just to make it a little bit more user friendly. So I would edit the style here, or I could customize the style and call this Upvote and create a new style. Once I've created the style, I will edit the style. I could change the color to, let's say, green. And customize also downvotes. Sorry, my screen is moving a little slow because I have so much things happening, so many programs running at the same time. So I would change this to red. That's not really red. Let's use that. Yeah, let's use that. Okay, so let's set the logic for each of these things. So what happens when we do an upvote? So we go here, start our edit workflow. Add an action. So what do we do when we upvote? We make changes to a thing. We make changes to the current cell's what? The current cell's votes. Well, first of all, make change to the current cell's domain name, and we change the votes to the current cell's domain name votes. This was the upvote, and then we add 1. So each click on the upvote button will result in the current cell's domain name's votes to increase by a value of 1. That logic should be fine. We also want to do the opposite for the downvote, and we start the workflow for the downvote. So we create an action here. What do we want to do? We want to make changes to the thing. We want to change the correct cell's domain name, and we want to change votes by subtracting one from the number of votes. Subtract one. That logic should be fine. So let's see if the application responds accordingly. Let's do a preview here. So let's see what happens when we do that. It goes to 2, goes to 3, goes to 4, and it can go down as well. It goes to 0, it goes to -1, and we can increase it. So great. So the logic is fine there, but we really want to enable one user to create one vote per upvote or downvote per domain name, right? So we'll look into that logic. Okay, so to prevent the constant upvoting and downvoting as we did before, we'll create a restriction on the user itself. So we go to data, and under domain name we add 2 other fields. So we'll create a user field and call it users upvoted, and would change the field type to user, and then would have this field listed as multiple entries. So what we are doing essentially is creating a list of the users that have already upvoted for a particular name that is listed, right? Since I've done it before here, I wouldn't do it again, and I would create similarly for the downvoted field. I would do users downvoted field type user, and then create a list as well, right? From there we go to the logic. This is the upvote logic, and we would add another field, and we would define users upvoted, and we would add the current user to the database, right? That completes the logic there. We want to add, sorry, made a mistake here. We want to add the current user. Right? Similarly, for downvotes, we change users downvoted by adding the current user. And the current user is just defined by cookies from Bubble's system that is stored on the user's device. So we're adding the current user. Fine. From there, we create the logic to say that when it is clicked, it should only make the change when the current cell's domain names users upvoted doesn't contain the current user. You see how interesting this can really be. So that should work. And we do the same here for users downvoted. We only change users downvoted when the current cells users downvoted doesn't contain the current user. So if you understand it well, it will do a check on this list, the users downvoted, and if this current user's name is found to have voted for this name already, it wouldn't count that vote again. So let's check the application here to see if that works. So I had voted on these already. Okay, so I had voted on these already, and you realize once I vote once and don't vote once, it's not enabling me to do the same again. I do that once, I'm not able to do it again. Do that once, not able to do it again. Once, not able to do it again. So it works. So that's basically it. How to create a simple upvote, downvote application with the logic to enable one user per row to upvote or downvote. I hope that's clear. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, thanks for watching.